Good morning, everyone. Sitting here, and I'm sitting like this so that way you can see the vehicles go down through here. I have a lot of stuff to say today, and I don't think anyone's going to like it. People say we need to make America great again. America is a great nation. But when you start ripping the foundation, you start ripping the progression that we've made in order to be more humane, and you want to rip that away to go back to the old ways and the old days, that don't make sense to me. You can't do it. The old days, you found a piece of property and you had Indians living on it. Indian Removal Act, 1830. You could go and butcher these families that were living on the property that you wanted, and it wouldn't matter. They would take the children of the Native Americans and put them in white Christian schools and take them away from their family. Really? That was the old days. Slavery. Can you imagine? I can't imagine being a slave owner and being able to treat. I could not mentally or even consciously be able to treat people that way. Breed them like livestock, sell them on the auction block like livestock, as some of the slave owners would use the women as their concubines or whatever. And I hear people say, well, it's in the Bible. It doesn't make it right. Women were killed in the Bible for even looking at another man or telling her husband no. Or if her husband raped her and she hid him back, he'd kill her. And you look at some of the old laws in the states, women were allowed to be beaten every day except for Sunday. You couldn't beat your wife on Sunday. 3 Native American Indians walking through town, that was considered a war party. You could shoot them. You could have them arrested, whatever. How is that the good old days? I don't get it. Where are the morals, values, and common courtesy today? Very slim. Very slim. And when people talk about going back to the old days, I'm like, are you kidding me? I want to be able to vote. I want to be able to do what I need to do for me. I certainly could not have a thumb put on me by a man. That ain't happening. It never happened. Not even as a young girl. No. I remember punching a man, a boy, young guy. He was probably 24, 25. I was like 21. And he took me to a Masonic lodge. And I was told I could not go into the other room, but he would be back. And I said, you're not leaving me here. I said, I'm either going with you or we're leaving. And he started to get physical. I knocked him to his knees. And then I called my daddy. And my daddy come pick me up. Dad was proud of that. But I'm going to tell you something. I don't want to go back to the old days. I don't want to see more people tortured and treated like animals. That's not what made America great. What made America great was when there was the freedom of religion and the freedom of speech and the freedom to be who the hell you are. You want to go back. Why? Why? Because your kind was in charge? Your like-minded thinkers were like, yep, we got slaves, we got Indians on reservations, everybody's doing great. This is a great country. That wasn't a great time. It was great for the white male landowners who became government officials, who became lawyers, who did all of that, who were sent east for education if that's what needed to be done. Then they would come back to their little podunk towns and become legislation judges, so on and so forth. I don't want to go back. I do not want to see any of that crap. But when you ask someone who says, yep, we need to go back to the old days, and you say, well, what about slavery? And they just kind of, really? It's not an educated answer. That's not an answer at all. So let's just think about something here. Let's just think about something. Going back to the old days, it just doesn't sound very appetizing. To see people strung up in the middle of town, killed, tortured. When I hear ignorant people say, let's go back to the old ways, the old way was the best. How far back did you want to go? Well, in 1970, things started to get better for everybody, right? For most. Racism is something that some people cannot get out of their bloodstream. They were raised that way, they were taught that way, and they only look at specifics to give their opinion some validity, which there is no validity for that. None. So when you're down there in Tennessee and you're talking about making America great again, what was your history? What did your people have to go through? Let's not make America great like it is now. We want to make it like it was back then. Full of racism and sexism? No. Murder, rape, torture. Legally done. Women didn't beat. Oh, wait a minute. They couldn't be beat on Sundays. You could not beat your wife on Sundays. Now, there were some laws where you could take your wife to the courthouse and beat her on the steps with a, I think it was a stick. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what it was, but it could only be a certain diameter. Another Tennessee law was your wife couldn't drive a car unless you were standing in front of her with 2 red flags. Come on out and stand in front of me with 2 red flags, honey. I'm going to drive that car to another state. No, going back to the old days is not what we need. What we need is so much more. When I hear we need to go back to the old days and the old ways, yeah, you need to can your food. Yeah, you need to preserve your stuff. You need to grow your food. You need to do this. You need to do that. But when you're talking about them old days, you're talking about something completely different. No, it's not acceptable. Let's keep America great. Let's not go backwards. Going backwards will only get you into a world of hurt. And I believe that's where we are. I've been called a lot of things. I've been treated very well. I've been treated very poorly. But you know what? I make the decision of how my life is going to be. Except for right now, my injury was not my fault. And I'm dealing with a lot of that. I mean, I'm dealing with so much with my injury, I can't even explain it to you. It has destroyed certain aspects of my life, period. But there's more to life than just my injury. So I muddle through every single day. And unfortunately, with my injury, I have a lot of sit time. I can do something for about 10, 15, 20 minutes, and then I have to go sit down. I got to get my head in a certain position so my neck is in a certain position. And then I can get it to quit hurting for a little bit or take some pills and keep it going down. The headaches are outrageous. So I end up watching things and listening to other people. And I'm going to tell you, let's not go back to the old days. Let's think about what we've learned from the old days. The Dust Bowl, the Depression, things like that. But if that's all you're talking about, going back to the old days had a whole lot more to it than that. Indians or Native Americans, I don't say Indians in a derogatory place. I don't say it that way. I'm just, because that's what we were told they were growing up. Native Americans, or actually they would be considered Aboriginals, actually, I guess. As like in Australia, which they don't really have another name, but I think when they call them Abos, I think that's supposed to be derogatory. Somewhere in my bloodline, there is some Indian somewhere. I think, but if I were to dwell on that part, I'd probably find persecution. Something like that. I'm watching my chicken. She's trying to find a place to lay an egg that she is absolutely not allowed to. So I'm watching her, and I'm watching her. So I know where that egg is going to be. Okay. When someone is questioned, they meet with deflection. I stop talking to them. I'm like, okay, so you can't have a conversation. Deflection is probably the way that people shut off not being able to accept the truth of what they're being asked. Just saying. Go back to the old days. Nah, I prefer not to. Y'all have a great day. Hugs from a distance. If this offends you, let me know. Let me know. Bye, y'all.